Until about an hour ago, I didn't really care about DMZ. I didn't think it looked that great. Then I read a Twitter thread that outlined some of the details, some of the mechanics that are going on in it, and it's completely changed my mind on it. It's got me super excited about it. So in this video, I'm going to take you through all the things that were explained in that Twitter thread and explain to you how DMZ works, some of the really cool features and mechanics that are going on in it. It's a little bit more complicated than maybe I thought at first glance, but by the end of this video, hopefully you'll be excited about it too. If you like the video, if you like me doing this sort of thing, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps out a bunch. But let's get looking straight at the thread. So all of this information is coming from WZ Ranked. They're the Twitter channel that I got all of this from. They're really cool. They run WZRanked.com and CODRanked.com. I reached out to them before I started recording and said, hey, this thread was super interesting. Do you mind if I make a video about it? And they were cool with it. So thank you very much to them for letting me do this, because this is really their research, all of the screenshots that they found and all of that stuff. It's all from them, so they are absolutely awesome. The gameplay footage I'm going to be using in this video is all from Modern Warzone. Doug from Modern Warzone was very kind and said everybody could use that footage for whatever content they wanted, so that will hopefully illustrate some of the things I'm talking about. But for anyone who doesn't know about what DMZ is at all, it's a mode alongside Battle Royale that's coming with Warzone 2. So it's coming at launch November 16th next week. It's going to be free to play because it's just part of Warzone 2 and it's part of that launcher. The weird thing is that Infinity Ward and Activision haven't really said that much about it. There's been lots of leaks and things, lots of speculation about this mode for quite a long time. But we didn't really know that much about it until yesterday, when a bunch of creators got flown out to LA and they got to play it. And even then, most people didn't really know what was going on. And I saw loads of confusion on Twitter about exactly how it works. But WZ Ranked seemed to have really kind of cut through all of that and found out exactly what's going on in it. And they've given lots of evidence to show what they're talking about. So let's get on with the stuff that they found. So first of all, the whole mode is built around the idea that you're doing missions. So you're teaming up with two friends, you're dropping into main Warzone map, so you're dropping into Al Mazrah, and you don't actually drop in, you sort of just appear on the ground. And then you're trying to complete missions on the map. You've got a set timer before this radiation will start spreading across the map. You can leave at any point, you can exfil at any point, and a little bit more about exfil a little bit later. But most of the missions you're doing are against AI soldiers, so against bots. And the AI looks like it hits pretty hard. Like, some of them are armored, so they take a little bit of time to take them down, but they can kill you super quickly. If you do die, there's no gulag or anything like that. If just one of your team dies, they can still be revived right where they are. Even if they're kind of fully dead, you can go over and revive them. But if you all die, then you're completely out. There are other players on the map and they can compete with you for things. They can just kill you and take the loot that you were carrying and stuff like that. But they're not really the focus of this. The focus is on completing missions. And you're going to be doing these missions for 3 different factions: Legion, White Lotus, and then one that I don't really know how to pronounce, like Black Mouse. I don't really know what country this is meant to be from, so I don't know. Now, you don't get all of these 3 factions at launch, well, at the very beginning. You start off with Legion, and then once you complete a mission for them, Storm the Stronghold, that will unlock White Lotus. And then when you complete the tier 2 story missions for both of those factions, that unlocks the last faction. Now, this is just at launch, so there could be more factions later on, we don't know. But all of these images, by the way, are from Dr. Lupo's stream when he was recording the thing. So we can see that within those factions, there are at least 5 tiers of missions for each of them. Now, we know this because there's insured slots, and we'll talk about that in a second, but it says on the 3rd slot, complete tier 5 of any faction. So we know there's at least 5 tiers. There might be more, we don't know. There might be 10, there might be 20, there might be 100, but there's at least 5 for each of them. And then in each tier, this is one tier, this is Legion's tier 1, locate and scavenge is the mission that they're on. And you can see there's 4 missions there: make contact, locate and scavenge, Al-Qatala informant, and storm the stronghold. And some of these missions have multiple objectives, some of them just have one. So this mission, locate and scavenge, they have to find and loot 5 loot caches and loot 5 items into your backpack. So a super easy, just kind of tutorial mission, very, very simple to do. And if they complete it, just this mission, they'll get 5,000 XP and a contraband M4. And we'll talk about what contraband means in a second, because that was something that I was very unclear on. So like I said, if there's 4 missions per tier and 5 tiers and 3 factions, that means there could be 60 different missions on launch. If there's more tiers, there could be way more than that. Maybe there's not 4 missions in each tier, we don't know. There might be like more, there might be less, we don't really know. But it sounds like 60 is a good ballpark for how many missions there could be at the beginning of this. And obviously potentially they could add stuff as seasons go. Now, the reason you want to complete these missions is because you unlock exclusive operator skins and blueprints that are usable across Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone. That's, you can see here on the loading screen for DMZ. You can also get contraband weapons for DMZ, and again, I'll talk about that in a second, and then you can also get XP tokens, apparently. Missions also unlock additional insured weapon slots. So let's talk about these weapon slots. Basically, when you go into DMZ, you've got two choices of weapons to take in. You can take in contraband weapons, which are weapons you actually find in DMZ that will often, like, you can't change the attachments on them. They just come set up, and then if you lose them, that's it, they're gone. Or you can fill your insured slots with some kind of special weapon, maybe one that you've modified yourself, one that you've created in Gunsmith. You can put that in one of your insured slots. So your insured slots means that you're not losing it. They're weapons that you take in from your loadout, we're assuming. It could be that you put contraband in here, but I think it's going to be your loadout type things. It says there, insured slots allow you to deploy to the DMZ with your own weapon from the Gunsmith with modifications and camos you've unlocked from Modern Warfare 2 or Warzone. So, contraband is weapons that you get from DMZ. Insured slots are full of weapons from your loadout. Now, in DMZ, if you don't manage to exfil, you lose everything. So, everything you were carrying, except for the weapon in your insured slot, which will be your loadout weapon, so you couldn't really lose that anyway. That's something that you keep. If you manage to successfully exfil, then any contraband you're carrying, any of the items that you're carrying, any of the money that you're carrying, key cards, and we'll talk about them a little bit later, all of that stuff gets kept, and you'll keep your insured slot. Because if you do have an unsuccessful exfil, so this is one from Lucky Shamu, it says that you've got a recovery time on that insured slot. So that's 10 hours from when they started, so 600 minutes. So they went in, they failed, they lost their insured slot, and that means now for the next 10 hours of real time, they can't use an insured slot. So that means they can't take in a loadout weapon, or possibly, like I said, I'm not 100% sure whether it is loadout weapons are going in insured slots. It could be that you can just insure a contraband weapon, which would mean that you just don't lose it if you die. But that means now you're just going to be taking in a normal contraband weapon, and you've got a contraband stash that can hold 20 of these weapons, and you can destroy them if they're rubbish. So, if you've exfilled before and you've got like a bunch of absolutely terrible guns, you've got a bunch of M16s for whatever reason, you can destroy them to make space for other ones. But now, if your insured slot is on cooldown, you can then take in a contraband weapon instead, which means, okay, it's not going to be as good as your own loadout weapons, but it'll probably do in a pinch. Now, if you complete some of the tiers of the different factions, you can unlock up to 3 insured slots. So that would mean within like a 10-hour period, you could fail 3 times, but still keep using your loadouts before you have to start using contraband weapons instead. So they've said there, unsuccessful exfils with your insured weapon, put the insured slot on a 10-hour cooldown. Now, the cooldown can be reduced. 10 hours sounds insane, but here you see Repulse. He managed to successfully exfiltrate, and he had cash when he exfilled. So you can find loads of items, you can find guns and stuff, and you can complete contracts in DMZ, and that will give you cash if you successfully exfil. And by the way, with all the items you find, you can sell them at buy stations for cash. There's like a separate menu for that. But the cash you exfil with, that will reduce your cooldown. So he came out with 3,500, which from what I've seen isn't a huge amount. I think you can get much more than that. And then that's reduced his cooldown by nearly 3 hours. So that's pretty good going, like you can do that. And then they said Lucky Shamu reduced his by 5.5 hours by looting 30,000. So it's not like a direct thing, it seems to be, on a scale. But if you've got $30,000, that reduced their insured slot cooldown time by over half, which is really, really good. So don't think like, oh no, I can only play once every 10 hours. That's not how it works. It's more just when you go back in, you want to focus on getting cash, then you unlock those slots again so you can go back in with your better weapons. Fair enough. So while the insured slot is on a cooldown, you can still deploy to DMZ. You're not locked out of the mode, but you can only use contraband weapons. These guns are held in your stash and are previously looted during successful exfils, or they can be earned by completing missions like we saw up here. This mission, if you complete that mission, you get a contraband M4. So that means an M4 that you can use for one mission. If you successfully exfil on that mission, you keep it. It doesn't go out of your inventory or anything like that, I don't think. So that means that you can keep on going back in. But having that M4, if you die, that's gone. Like that's just out of it if you don't have an insured slot for it. Contraband weapons are not customizable and may be inferior to your own loadout weapons due to a lack of modifications, so attachments. It might even be possible that you might get some contraband weapons that are better than your loadouts. Maybe they'll have more than 5 attachments or something. I could imagine them doing special contraband weapons that are super powerful because they've got all the attachments. Although at the moment in Modern Warfare 2, attachments kind of make the gun worse, I assume over time that'll be balanced and attachments will be made a little bit better and a little bit more useful. So, like they say there, the contraband weapons, if you finish on it, if you die, if you don't successfully exfil, those weapons are completely removed from your stash forever. So, they said there, it's very likely that the average player will run out of their insured slots and contraband weapons very quickly due to unsuccessful exfils, and therefore will be forced to deploy with random weapons. They're not sure if it's pistols or fists or just some random guns. We saw in the event in LA that some people were deploying with just fists. So I think if you completely run out of contraband weapons and you don't have any insured slots, they're all on cooldown, I think you will literally drop into DMZ with just your fists. Obviously, if you don't want to do that, you can wait for the timer to run out before you go back in again, or you can just go in and hope to try and loot a gun before you come across any AI. Because the AI are dangerous, like they will kill you very, very fast. So it's really important that you have weapons. So it says there, this should ensure most players play a smart game and focus on the objective, ensuring a healthy stash of contraband guns or ensured slot availability in their reserve. So it's like, this is the sort of risk and reward. This is the thing that's making you risk something that like you don't want to have to sit there and face that timer or going in without any weapons at all. Like that's the risk that you're facing. Some gatherable items will become mission items as missions progress in difficulty. You'll need to exfil with those items to deliver them to your faction. This should create an ecosystem of players fighting for loot and exfil points. So there's loads of different like random loot that you can find. There's like comic books, there's a cat picture I think Jack Frags was saying. There's a bunch of different stuff like dotted around. A lot of the time you're just going to be selling that, but sometimes, like in Escape from Tarkov, a mission might say, okay, we want you to find some electrical tape. So you need to keep on looking around. Maybe it'll be in certain places, maybe like, oh, you find like an electrical shop or you find like a garage or something where you're more likely to find it. Maybe that's going to be a thing. Maybe it'll say you want to find some bandages or something, so you're going to go search for loads of like medical kits. So there'll be different types of items that you need to find, and you need to actually exfil with those items in your inventory, and they take up space and stuff like that in order to complete the missions. Some mission items will only be lootable inside of locked buildings, which can be unlocked with keys or key cards. Key cards have a limited amount of uses and can be dropped from your stash on death. So if you take them into DMZ, you've got risk and reward, because if you've got a mission that requires you to go to a specific building to get a specific item, and then in one game you find a key for that building, but you don't have time to get there, or the radiation's already spread across the map, and again, we'll talk about radiation in a second, then you might exfil, take that key out, and then you choose when you want to go back in. Maybe you'll wait until you've got an insured slot free, so you've got a good weapon, wait until some of your friends are online, so you're not going in with randoms and you've got people to go on with. And then when you take that key in, that game's going to have like higher tension, it's going to have a lot more risk in it, because if you die at the beginning of that game before you unlock the building, that key's gone. Like that key's gonna be dropped. And I think other players can pick it up and stuff like that, so maybe your teammates could pick it up and get it out. But it's going to make it a little bit more interesting that some of this loot, the keys in particular, are going to be valuable. In addition to faction missions and their rewards, there are also up to 7 unique rewards from weapon cases. So these weapon cases, I think they show up like a red briefcase on the map, and if you pick one up, you can find them in safes and stuff and in strongholds. It marks you for everyone on the map. Everyone can see where you are, and that makes the extraction more difficult, but obviously if you manage to get out, you get a blueprint. So this is one of them, the caution tape one. So basically you pick up this object, and then everyone in the game can see that you've got it. They'll want to kill you to take it, to have it for their own. You want to kind of exfil as fast as possible with that blueprint, and then if you manage to exfil, you'll get to keep it. So that seems super awesome. That seems like it'll be a fun thing to do kind of early on, because you don't need to have the missions unlocked for that. There are 3 exfil locations available from the start of the map. These are the same to all players on the server. So everyone can see those 3 exfil locations. They'll be sort of randomly dotted around the map, I guess. Maybe there'll be loads of possible ones and they'll be picked from. you can choose to exfil whenever you want. So if you just drop in and then you immediately find a weapon case, you might be like, well, I'm just getting out of here straight away with it, because all the other players will be doing their own missions and stuff. You might be able to get out super quick. Or you might be doing a mission that takes quite a while and you might want to wait a very long time until you end up exfilling. The radiation starts to spread from its source once the first timer ends. I think it was about, they say they're 30 minutes. I think it was 25, but I'm not sure exactly how long it is. And you can see the yellow circle where it's going to start from the beginning. It's like a reverse gas circle, basically. And it will start expanding once those 25 minutes are up. And then some of those exfil locations will be unusable because the radiation will hit them. So you need to either exfil before it gets to them, or once they've all been taken up, once the game's about to end, there'll be one final exfil location that will be revealed that obviously you'll have to fight any teams who are left in the game at that end part. Now, when I was looking at the HUD, when I was watching the VODs, I didn't see anything to do with how many players are left in the server, so I don't think you will actually know how many players are left in the game like you do in Warzone. So that could make it quite tense, you know. Maybe there'll be no one there at the end, maybe there'll be a bunch of people. Exfil zones as well as the radiation source change locations each game. However, they have a predefined number of possible combinations. So like you can see here, there's one where you can see where the radiation thing is starting there. And then that one also seems to be kind of in the same location, but then that one is close down to the airport. So there's different places it could be. Each season, Infinity Ward could replace or add more missions and rewards, and that they've said there that's kind of key to DMZ's replayability and success. The idea that Infinity Ward could just keep on adding stuff, keep on keeping this fresh. I'm really hoping it'll be like almost a weekly thing in some seasons. Maybe not the first season, but in future, where we'll just have a reason every week at reset to hop in and do a few more missions, like how Fortnite's missions work. So, loads of information there. Hopefully that's got you a bit more hype. This sounds super fun, the idea of, you know, the risk and reward, the way the insured weapon slots work. So it's kind of, you know, oh, you'll be really annoyed if you lose one of your insured weapon slots and you've got a 10-hour cooldown, but you're like, okay, I'm going to go in with this contraband weapon that I've got from a previous mission. I'm going to take that in and try and reduce my insured weapon thing by as much as possible by getting loads of cash in this mission or something like that. That sounds like it could be super fun. Or maybe you'll drop in, get a key that you know you need for a mission, but you're just playing with randoms, so you're just like, screw this, I'm going to exfil immediately, get this key out so I can keep it in my inventory, and then I'll be able to take it in for a future mission or something like that. And hopefully we'll get a blog post from Call of Duty, from Activision or Infinity Ward or whoever's working on this at some point in the next few days. I imagine we should do maybe at the beginning of next week. But I'm super excited about this. So if you like this video, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, go check out WZ Ranked. Like, this Twitter thread was awesome, got me super excited about this, and I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.